How much time do you have on this planet? Maybe much, maybe not so much. Maximize your moments. This is Now Tell Us podcast, and I'm your host, Anthony Moirore. At Now Tell Us, we have guests come and tell us stories. They come and inspire us. They come and educate us on a subject that they are passionate about. Always at Now Tell Us, we have some great guests join us. Today, we have Pastor Owen Williams, who's going to be here to tell us just about that, maximizing our moments. And I would ask you to please join me as we go and meet him. But before we go, remember to share this episode with all your friends. If you have a question, ask. If you have any feedback on our podcast, we really appreciate feedback. And so we thank you in advance for your time. I don't want to take one more minute because I know that Pastor Owen has a lot of things to tell us. So why don't you join me as we go together to meet him? Here we go. Hello.
Hello, Anthony. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you, sir. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And we are grateful to God that you are here with us today.
I am amazed at the technology that we can talk to each other so clearly and see each other, and we are on opposite sides of the world.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's good to live at this day and age when things are happening at the fraction of a second and reaching many people, doing a lot of things. Uh, could there be any better time than this?
And I have. I'm glad you think like that. I have a lot of, you know, uh, spiritual children, and my youngest is 32, and they some of them can be a little conspiracy therapy wise and too much technology and AI and stuff, but there's some great things that come out of these times we live in now, and if we learn to recognize them, it's the ability to stay connected with family and friends and meet new people,
Hmm.
and we just learn to develop relationships virtually, and ultimately we can make them socially and in person if we can. So God bless you for this work that you're doing,
Yeah,
keep
God
people
bless you.
connected.
God bless you too for being here with us. Now, talking of connecting people from different parts of the world, at Now Tell Us, we are always curious to know from where we are connecting with people. Where are you?
I am in the South Central United States. I'm in the state of Texas, in the
Oh,
capital in the capital of Austin,
uh-huh.
and I am really outside of 20 minutes outside of Austin, in St. Travis County, but small town called Pflugerville. It's my retirement home. I've retired from New York City, and I live down here in Pflugerville, Texas, right now. Wonderful place, quiet, small, a lot of lakes, a lot of cows, a lot of animals. I enjoy retired life with my wife down here.
Wow, it's good to hear that. And you tell us much more about that. But before you go on, let me thank each and every person who's watching us and those who could be joining as we go along. Mishka says, "Hi, everyone, joining in to listen and learn. Much love and support here." Yes, we really appreciate you, Mishka. And everyone out there who's watching us or listening to us. And Mishka says that she's connecting with us from Savannah, Georgia. Thank you, Mishka.
God bless
And
you.
if we have anybody else out there who's watching us, let's know from where you're connecting. And as we go further into learning from Pastor Owen Williams, I get it that you're also called Reverend. And you talked about retirement. Tell us about this connectivity.
When you've been in the ministry for a few years, like I have,
Mm,
the people that you've been close with over the years, over the decades, they become terms of endearment. So you go from pastor to reverend, or reverend to pastor, and you go to rev. So
Okay.
I'm just rev to everybody now. So in my secular job I retired from, I was rev. And my family, rev this and that aspect. So that's how it came about. I retired from the New York City public health system. I was the chief chaplain for one of their hospitals, and then oversaw the chaplaincy for the program through their spiritual council. So God was able to merge my secular and ministry life together as far as employment. And I retired in 2021, right after the pandemic was coming to an end. We
Mm.
saw a lot of stuff there, and ministry. And I retired from my secular job, but I still, keep my hands in the pastoring. I'm looking to transition completely out of it. I have a lot of people who can take over at the church that I pastor, so I'm there like once or twice a month, and working my way to full retirement, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 years.
Hmm. How has been the journey so far? And what points in life could you want to maybe highlight to us, to tell us that this part of my life, I really would look back and get some ideas, some lessons from them?
Well, at the one of the things that as I reflect on my life and grow, there's a scripture in the book of Genesis, at the garden where God told Adam and Eve, "And thorns and thistles, and by the sweat of your brow you will work the land." And what used to come up so easily from the ground in the garden is going to take a lot more elbow grease and back bending and ingenuity to bring forth the fruit that we desire in life.
Mm.
So, having said that, the journey is a challenge, without about doubt. No doubt about that. The journey has been a challenge. Um, but as you talked about, learning to recognize moments and not be blinded by disappointment or blinded by anger or jadedness or feel like you've been treated unfair, and taking those things on into your spirit has been very helpful.
Mm. I discover also that you are a writer. At what point did you start writing, and what is it that you do you write about?
I penned my first book in 2012 and my last book last year. I've written 4 books. The first one was a trilogy. It's called the Corporate Christian Series. Being a Christian pastor and working in the corporate environment, I understood and realized that our beliefs sometimes do not mirror our behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be from outright disrespectful behavior or anger, or is not a lack of Christian graces and charities towards people. And so I explored that a lot. And one of the things that I came up with is that my theology that I study has to impact my psychology, that impacts my behavior. And impacting my behavior, I have to learn to recognize moments, uh, turning point moments, including the ones that don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the overlooking for a promotion, determination, these kinds of things. You look for them, and you recognize and see that it's not the end, and what's happening here. What am I? And as I've looked back over my life, once or twice I've gotten let go from jobs, and I can sit back and tell you, back in 1992 when I lost my first job, I deserved to lose my first job. I had great success, and with that success came a lot of arrogancy, and in that arrogancy came a lot of disrespect, a lot of I'm in charge and I can do those things, and you know I needed to be put in the wilderness for a couple of years to
Mm.
learn to appreciate and if I'm blessed to get back there, do it a little differently.
What
So
would that job have been?
I was also in healthcare administrator. I
Okay.
was running the support service departments there, and in a city hospital, and lack of money, but we had great success, and inspired people to do things and get things done. And then prior to and upon the completion and getting the the great inspections from the state and the federal governments and passing. There was great celebrations and fanfare. And then some people who weren't there were coming in now to give instructions, and I kind of resisted, which was wrong on my part because people have a right to give their 2 cents, whether they were there or not there, and you know I did not own the platform in a sense, not because
Mm-hmm.
I was there doing it, and that I had total dictatorial authority to say the direction that we go in.
Mm-hmm.
And one has to learn that in a sense, and you see that being played out sometimes, even in the faith and in the ministry. That not because you have a title of pastor means that you have complete say or you dictate to people in the church or in their lives. Not because you're the CEO means you can play with people's livelihoods, stuff like that. And affect their college, their kids in college, or their mortgages and stuff like that. So, um, and when bad things happen, we need to maximize our moments instead of just blaming the person or blaming God or this or that. Or let's recognize it, because there's a greater gift in recognizing and learning to discern as you go forward in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first book in the series, the corporate Christian, as Christian beliefs versus corporate behaviors. Um, what could we expect to find there if we went and found the book?
Well, this is the frontal. I hate to use the word assault because I don't want to make it like a warfare thing, but most people get jobs, their first jobs, or they get a promotion to another job, and they're very happy. And we live in a time now where the people, they live a physical life and they have a social life, and their social
Mm-hmm.
life is social media. So they'll always promote things. I've got this, and I've started a new job. I'm happy for this, and I'm happy for that. And those are great things. It's good to feel good and proud and celebrate yourself. One of the things that you quickly realize is, the euphoria of a new job can wear off within 3 to 7 weeks
Mm-hmm.
because the actual doing the work has to take place now.
Yeah.
And you're going into different ideas, different people who don't look like you, don't pray like you, don't love like you, these kinds of things. So
Mm-hmm.
we're in the marketplace, right? And the marketplace is a collection of people from all different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then what the company now decides is most companies have a promoted culture that you hear and see, but they also have a subculture that's not promoted that you feel every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The favoritism, which is the toxicity, which is the disrespect and these kinds of things that go on, the unfairness that you feel,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to learn how to navigate that. You know, as a Christian person that professes and confesses the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
you should learn how to navigate those things. And because even though we know that we're in the world and we know that good things happen, bad things happen to good people, we tend not to be able to handle it when it happens.
Yeah, I get it. And then we have book two and book three, better for your beliefs, and then book three, which is the hidden war. Are they any different from the first, and in what way are they different? What could be there that is not there in the first?
I
Is
think as you read it as a trilogy, you'll see the second one now is a progression into you've now elevated to a different level. So now
Mm,
you're on your job and you're comfortable in your job, and you've survived the initial shock. Now you can now become just a typical jaded person. I'm just coming in, do my work, what they tell me, no more, no less. Clock in at 8 and leave at 4 o'clock, and that's it.
mhm,
And this is where you have to now battle for your beliefs, which is your hope, your confidence, your joy, because it's still a good thing to have a job. It's still a
mhm,
good thing to get a biweekly or weekly or monthly paycheck. It's not a bad thing to do that. So you have to fight the internal battles, of this, of how do you handle this, and how do you not handle it, but make sure that you're not slipping into a negative, jaded, resentful uh, type of person while going to that person's job, taking their money, and not showing any kind of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the people you'll hear, well, they're not paying me what I'm worth. Oh, well, I've done that stuff, and they take advantage of me because I'm black, I'm a female, and this and that. And all those may be true, but you can never prove that. But the fact of the matter is, you still have a job, and you're still getting paid, and you need to maximize those moments.
Mm. There's a lot of things that happen in a corporate world. You're in an office, and as you say, you're a Christian, and then someone calls in, and you being on the front desk or somewhere else, and you have to hand over a call to a boss. You're told that he's not present, and you are seeing him there. How do you deal with that? How such kind of situations, like you're told to change the company uh, picture to the outside world, or maybe as you expressed in your first job, when they have to come and inspect, and those kind of things are happen, and you have to deal with them. How do you go about them?
Well, I think a big, strong advocacy for you is to be humble and grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start that job, the time you leave the job, it doesn't change. You're still an employee. There's still policy and procedures have to be followed. You're no greater, no matter how you move up the corporate ladder. You're still an employee.
Mm-hmm.
And that should keep you in a sense of humility and humbleness that you don't own this. Another challenging thing is we have to do more with less. We have to tighten our belts. So you may feel you're being overworked. Well, you're there for 7, 8 hours. You do the best you can with the honest efforts that you have to do that. Once we start to take it as it's a personal assault on us, that they're coming after me because I did not go to the office party, because I don't, check in, and become a teacher's pet, because I am this or I am that. I speak with an accent, these kinds of things. Once you start feeling these things coming at you, you now give these thoughts, and in my faith and my world, you give, you know, demonic spirits access to your heart and your thinking, and it can make a transformation, and you can now start to see, as the scriptures say, your eye gets dark, and you start to see things in a negative light all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and you're losing this battle, for your beliefs. You're losing the battle, because your belief is supposed to, is the one thing that no man can take from you. No one can control that. That's your belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And the Christian belief system is inclusive and not exclusive. It's social. It's a body that's connected together in a sense.
Yeah. Going on to American Christianity, Black liberation, white legalism. Tell us a bit about that. I see the picture of a famous MLK there.
Well, this is my latest book.
Okay.
I was looking at American life
Mm-hmm.
in the last 7 to 8 years, well, probably in the last 20 years, let's say, since 9/11. And my country has gotten a lot more somewhat divisive, but more cynical in a
Mm-hmm.
sense. There's a lack of trust among people. You know, there's always been a racial divide in America, but now there's also a divide in political divide. It's a divide in families and generational gaps and stuff like that. So I tend to think people tend to be different for different sake, argue just for arguing's sake.
Mm.
That's how it seems to me. But I wanted to find out where the church was in all of this. You know, the church's silence in the midst of this. And
Mm-hmm.
that led me on a journey over the last 400 years uh, to explore, you know, the apostolic movement and the Rhema word and these kinds of things that Logos and that word of God, and looked at, you know, mid-century, late Christianity and the explosion in the New World. So
Mm-hmm.
we start to examine, the Catholic Church and Pope Louis and these kinds of things, and some of the decrees that were signed that exploded into the New World, that gave Liberia, which is now Spain, trading rights with African countries for slavery and products and stuff like that, and how that exploded into South America, the Caribbean, and ultimately the United States of America. And lo and behold, some of the things that we found was that of all of the trading people that came to the New World, it was only like 400,000 Africans landed on the shores of America.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were in South America and the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but by the time the American Civil War, that number had mushroomed up to about 4.5 million people. And we found out, chattel, chattle, chattel slavery is just basically, property. You are literally property to do with as you please. So we started examining some of the laws in
Mm-hmm.
American jurisprudence in the states, and the constitutional laws and the constitutional amendments. And we put that out in the book as well, and some of the behaviors that happen. And these were people of faith. These were people who believed. These were Protestant. These were Baptist, Southern Baptist. These were Catholics. And breeding farms of breeding people. So even though the British had shut down slavery globally by 1808, prior to that, America was bringing in more female slaves, women, and children, girls, for breeding purposes to breed people for labor. So
Mm-hmm.
you had a lot of massive breeding farms in Maryland and South Carolina and throughout in Georgia and stuff that were there. And these, so I started looking at, why would Christian people? I'm not saying all, because you had the John Brown Society and you had a few others. As I get older, it slips my mind, that were advocating for, you know, the abolitionists and stuff for this behavior to change, this policy, this slavery, this industry to change. We had a significant amount of people who wanted to keep it in place. And the reality is that it wasn't that, I mean, there was a mindset that people of a certain color were less than. But the reality is the main thing is it was a industry, it was business, it was profit and money. And this explores this mindset in reference to, why do you see me as less than? Why do you see me so different? I have feelings, and I have spoken to people all over this globe. I've been going to Johannesburg, South Africa. I've been going into Swaziland, Eswatini, Liberia. I've gone to England and South America and many parts of the United States. And the one thing I've found is people are people. People want to have comfort. They want to have financial security. They like to be able to make sure their children are okay. And these are not just political speeches. And why do you deem that I want anything less for mine that you want for yours? And this divisive thing, the pie is big enough. And then we go into some other things in the public square we talk about. Which people say, oh, Reverend, that's a utopia kind of mindset. And that's concerning for me because, when we start to think about hope and camaraderie and community as utopia, that's how far we've slipped.
Mm. Oh, so that's in the book American Christianity, Black Liberation, White Legalism by Pastor Owen Williams.
It's a historical read. You'll get a deep history
Mm-hmm.
of of that. And both parties, black liberation, white legalism, both need to be liberated from God, because black liberation doesn't always mean resistance and revolution, and white legalism should not always mean that you have a legal right to rule. Yeah. So you may need to be liberated from that, and the black person may need to be liberated from hostility, jadedness, and anger. And we seem to be stuck as a society and a world in that quagmire.
Hmm. Ah, thank you for sharing your books with us. Now we're talking about maximizing our moments. How do we go about that? Because we say again, we don't have so much of them.
Well, I just laid out to you, unfortunately, a lot of negativity, in life that is happening and is going on. And these are the things that the human spirit is so beautiful and wonderful that we can maximize our moments. So the first thing we must be able to do is recognize what is a moment. And you recognize what a moment is when you're able to divorce yourself, or choose. Yeah, and it's not an easy thing to do, but with practice, it becomes better to not carry around baggage and hurt baggage, and not say, well, this man sexually harassed me, so all men are like this, or all women are like this, or you know, the generalization of people is a terrible thing. So we have to be. That's the first step to do that. The second thing we must do is also try not to project our pain onto other vulnerable minds. Stop teaching young people, because it happened to you, it's going to happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's start preaching hope. As my spiritual father said, take him out the grave, put him in heaven, and sit down. you know, start preaching hope,
Mm-hmm.
and not prosperity, but hope in that process, because hope within is a beautiful thing. And so in doing that, you start to recognize your moments. And in recognizing your moments, you'll understand what that means. And what that means is that a termination, there's a wonderful scripture in the Bible that says all things work together for the good to
Mm-hmm.
those who are called according to his purpose and love him,
Yeah.
including the things that you think are negative. They work together for the good. And as your book says, be good for good. Well, okay, well, how can I be good for good? Well, I be good for good, knowing that all things working in my life are working for my good.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that I'm not good, but things are working to get me to good, in
Yeah.
essence. So things are working to get me good. So they're working for my good, because there's some things in me that ain't good. And if I take those things into my good neighborhood, they will no longer be good because I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
Bad stuff.
Yeah.
So I hope that makes sense, because it's a tongue twister.
Yes, it does. It does. And thank you for that. Now, I know there's a lot that we can look into at this moment, but I'm trying to imagine which could be your next book. What other part could of life could you be wanting to cover? What is there something in the works already, or what?
Well, one of the things that I've been kind of looking at, I'm kind of a nosy person, so I study humanity and stuff like that. And, I've been having conversations, with myself and with a lot of younger people. And this, this, this greed that we have, this 3% controlling 98% of the resources globally, and, 90 something people living hand to mouth. I'm trying to look at that and understand why reasonable people don't see that that's a problem.
Mm,
Why is that a problem? So, and I go back to the church again, and I'm thinking, American Christianity, ministry and money, ministry versus money in a sense, and start to pen that a little bit, because it's tied up into so many things that there's nobody in my family, my grandfather, great grandfathers, that actually was a rich person. As a matter of fact, they died in the negative poverty.
mm,
Poverty is a consistency, or just barely breaking even, is the consistency of most people on the planet. And I think there's certain things that can blind us from that. One, the the labeling of society, you know, um, the categorizing of male, female, black, white, gender, this, that, all these things. Uh, the more you divide people, uh, the better it is to continue to oppress people, in a sense,
mm,
and have people, and this is an official division. Every country around the world, they you get identified by your race, your age, your gender, and all these things. And sometimes I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's the best way you want to do a census and you want to manage people. But you got to be careful with that because when you start keeping demographics like that, you tend to now stigmatize. And stigma placed on people is a hard thing to remove.
Mm.
And you'll see it with black people. You'll see it with women. Women couldn't get these jobs and this and that, and that hurts people. It hurts them internally, and once again affects them their ability to maximize their moments and stuff like that because they start to feel less than or they feel not equal to, in a sense. A lot of women portray the strength, but 10,000 thoughts go through a woman's mind every morning, right? So
Mm.
how to get dressed and there, so there's a lot of insecurities going on in that process. There.
Mm. Oh, so we are going to get to hear more of you, maybe follow up with you, and the people listening to you maybe could be interested in knowing how do I get those books. And we talked about a series which is the Corporate Christian, book 1, 2, and book 3. The Corporate Christian 1, 2, 3, and also we
Book,
talked
but
about, yeah.
book three, the book three, that is, you're walking into your job and there's a Goliath facing you that you have not seen, and
Hmm.
there's a David behind you that you don't use. So that's what that symbolizes: the David in you that you don't use, and the Goliath in front of you that you don't see.
Oh yeah, we see that in the background.
Background. So
It's a beautiful cover.
yes,
Uh-huh. Yes, and also the book that we touched on by Pastor Reverend Owen Williams is The American Christianity. And he also talked about Christianity and finances being in the future works, and we'll be eager to know what's there. So, how can people connect with you to get those books and also follow up with your future works?
well, they can go to my website, which is www.OE Williams Ministries,
Mhm.
www.OE Williams Ministries, and they'll see a lot about the ministry, myself, my background. And there's a book page where they can click on those books. It'll take them right to the Amazon places, and they can purchase the books from Amazon. I'm in the process now of converting them to audiobooks because people like to listen to books while they're jogging and listening and driving. So we're going to convert them into audiobooks. And with these audiobooks, there'll be not just me reading the books, but giving explanations of each chapter, and talking about some case samples, especially in the first book or two, because this is all about theology, impacting psychology aspect. And I don't think it's just limited to, in my previous job, I worked with Buddhist monks and imams and rabbis and stuff, and I put supervising, but we worked together. And these are conversations that we have all the time. And this, what I'm talking about as far as people and their faith not working in times of crisis, transcend all faiths. You know, people tend to get disheveled when things go awry.
Hmm. Wonderful. So, everybody, you head on to OE Williams Ministries.com and connect with Reverend Owen Williams, Pastor Reverend Owen Williams.
Or if they go to Amazon, just type in Pastor Owen Williams books and they'll all pop up there.
Okay, so Pastor Owen Williams books, and the books will pop up there. So we thank you for coming to our episode, and we are almost over with this episode, and we thank you.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for having me. Such a pleasure meeting you. I look forward to talking to you again in the near future. God bless
Yeah,
you, sir. I'm
yeah.
impressed with the work that you're doing. You are inspiration to me, and I'm sure a lot of young folks for the work that you're doing. And your gentle spirit is really nice. I like that. Love that.
Thank you. I'm humbled by that compliment.
Bless your heart, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Has anybody ever asked you whether you're related to Tyra Perry?
To who?
Tyra Perry.
Oh, I wish. You know, I
Uh,
always use a family member. Hey, help me out, sir.
yeah, just wondered, hey, I think you have some sibling.
He's a little younger than I am. So,
Yeah,
he's,
really? So you've been here longer than him?
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
positive about that. So,
Okay, so anyway, thank you very much. We've come to the end of another episode at Now Tell Us podcast, and we really appreciate Pastor Owen Williams for coming to the show. And we also appreciate every guest, every listener, every viewer for being with us to the end of the show. Thank you very much.
God bless you, Anthony. Thank you for having me.
It would be good to leave us with a few words that we should never forget. What could those words be coming from Pastor Owen Williams?
I end all my books with that scripture that says, um, "Walk circumspectly in this world." In other words, live your life cautiously, live your life circumspectly, uh, because evil is abound, and maximize your moments because we have so few.
Thank you.
God bless you, sir.
God bless you. That's it for now. And until next time, this has been your host, Anthony Morore, and together with our wonderful, blessed Pastor Owen Williams, we are saying bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.